In a humble oil-scented garage, a quiet mechanic meticulously crafts a unique vehicle for a young girl in a wheelchair, bestowing upon her the freedom she'd only ever dreamed of. But when a formidable executive arrives in a gleaming limousine, offering immense fame and fortune for the girl's precious gift, the mechanic faces an agonizing decision: compromise his integrity or safeguard the dream he helped ignite. His next choice will astound us all. Before we delve into this incredible narrative, tell us where you're watching from. We cherish hearing your perspectives. Jack Turner had always embraced a modest existence in the tranquil town of Willow Creek, dedicating his days to a simple garage redolent of motor oil, aged rust, and worn leather. His hands were calloused, his shirts perpetually smudged with grease, yet his voice carried a warmth that inspired trust, a steadfast presence in a community that seldom changed. He wasn't one to seek accolades or attention. He simply believed in honest work and offering a helping hand. It was on a balmy afternoon, with the sun descending low over the dusty street, that destiny arrived at his door in the form of a little girl named Anna Collins. Anna had long admired the garage from afar, her wheelchair positioned on the sidewalk, her bright gaze following the cars and trucks Jack diligently worked on. Paralyzed from the waist down since early childhood due to a car accident that left unseen scars, Anna nonetheless exuded an indomitable spirit. That afternoon, accompanied by her mother, she summoned the courage to roll through the garage's open doors, her small hands gripping the wheels as she ventured into Jack's world. Jack looked up from beneath the hood of an antique Chevy, wiping perspiration from his brow, and offered a gentle smile at her appearance. Anna's mother, her face etched with worry, stood hesitantly nearby, glancing around as if uncertain of their place. But Jack, sensing their unease, knelt to Anna's level, extending a warm, "Well, hello there, young lady. You like cars, do you?" Anna's eyes immediately sparkled, her voice faint but clear. "I adore them. I fantasize about driving one someday." The way she spoke, devoid of bitterness, filled with pure hope, struck Jack more profoundly than any tool ever could. For a moment he forgot the broken radiator he was mending, seeing only the dream shimmering in this little girl's heart. Jack leaned against the car, arms crossed, contemplating. In that brief silence, Anna's mother began to apologize, murmuring about not wishing to intrude on his work, how Anna simply enjoyed observing. But Jack shook his head, his thoughtful gaze still fixed on Anna. He perceived more than just a child in a wheelchair. He saw an unyielding flame. "What if?" Jack began, the notion forming as he spoke. "What if I could construct something just for you?" His words were straightforward, yet they hung in the air like a solemn pledge. Anna's eyes widened, disbelief and wonder warring on her face. Her mother, meanwhile, stiffened, years of dashed hopes flickering across her features. Jack didn't fault her skepticism. Life had likely taught her not to trust easy good fortune. But he saw an opportunity. Not for charity, not for pity, but for a gift of liberation, meticulously crafted with care and respect. In that hushed moment, as the garage hummed with distant traffic and the scent of oil permeated the air, a silent agreement was forged. Jack Turner, the unassuming mechanic from Willow Creek, had just resolved to transform a life, utterly unaware of how profoundly his own life was about to change. From the instant Jack Turner uttered that promise, his world shifted into a higher gear. He spent the remainder of that afternoon pacing the garage, scribbling concepts on stray papers, his mind racing faster than any engine he'd ever serviced. He knew he couldn't simply refurbish an old go-kart and hand it over. No, Anna deserved something built with genuine devotion, something that would make her feel not confined but boundless. It had to be secure, effortlessly controllable, and above all, it had to make her feel alive. The following morning, Jack sifted through his storage, retrieving boxes of forgotten components, steering columns, lightweight chassis, wheels that had once belonged to discarded ATVs. He measured and remeasured, adjusting blueprints on the fly, envisioning Anna's small hands gripping a steering wheel custom-made for her. With every bolt he tightened, every weld he secured, Jack thought of the smile that might illuminate Anna's face when she beheld his creation. Word spread swiftly in a town like Willow Creek. Soon, neighbors were peering through the open doors of Jack's garage, murmuring about the peculiar contraption taking shape beneath the fluorescent lights. Some offered old parts, a battery here, a roll of leather for a seat there. They didn't fully grasp what Jack was building, but they could sense the palpable purpose in the air, thick and resonant like the electricity before a summer tempest. Every afternoon, just as the sun began to dip behind the trees, Anna and her mother would return. Anna, her hair secured with a worn blue ribbon, would propel herself up the cracked pavement, her eyes wide with anticipation. She posed incessant questions, her curiosity overflowing. How does the engine function? Can it go fast? Will it have a horn? Jack answered every query patiently, sometimes demonstrating, sometimes handing her a tool just to let her feel engaged. Jack observed the spark within her grow brighter with each visit. It was more than just the car. It was the conviction that someone saw her, not her chair, not her disability, but her essence. Anna's mother, who initially remained quiet in the background, also began to believe. Jack noticed how her shoulders gradually relaxed over the days, how she laughed more freely when Anna spoke of her car with the fierce pride Jack recognized in every dreamer he had ever encountered. Weeks passed and the project neared completion. Jack engineered special hand controls so Anna could operate the accelerator and brake without using her legs. He installed extra padding, meticulously double-checked every safety feature, and even painted the frame a rich, gleaming cherry red, precisely as Anna had described it. He wasn't merely constructing a machine. He was forging a gateway to freedom, fashioned with rough, oil-stained hands and a heart that profoundly understood what it meant to feel trapped. The day arrived when Jack wheeled the small car out into the parking lot, the sun glinting off its polished surface. Anna's gasp pierced the stillness like a melody. Jack knelt beside her, placing the key into her hand with a solemn smile. "She's all yours," he said, his voice thick with unconcealed emotion. Anna slid from her chair into the driver's seat with a resolve that brought silent tears to her mother's eyes behind her. The engine sputtered, then roared to life under her touch. Jack stepped back, his heart pounding as Anna cautiously pressed the hand throttle, and the car slowly moved forward. A second later, pure, unbridled laughter erupted from Anna's lips as she steered herself in gentle circles, the red car gleaming under the afternoon sun. Jack wiped at his eyes with the back of his greasy hand, feigning it was merely the wind. He had built many things in his life, but nothing had ever felt quite like this. In that moment, witnessing Anna's joy fill the street, Jack Turner believed that perhaps, just perhaps, a small garage in a quiet town could transform the world, one dream at a time. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that this humble act of kindness, born from bolts, scrap metal and tenacious hope, was about to send ripples far beyond Willow Creek, and Jack's tranquil life was on the verge of being irrevocably altered. Only a few days had passed since Anna first drove her car around Jack's garage, but the echo of her laughter still resonated in Jack's mind as he cleaned his workbench late one afternoon. He had assumed the excitement would subside, that life would quietly resume its normal rhythm. But Jack would soon realize that in a town like Willow Creek, good news traveled just as rapidly as bad and sometimes much farther. Jack had just pulled the bay doors halfway closed when he heard it, the unmistakable low purr of a high-end engine, smooth and too pristine for these dusty streets. He turned toward the sound, expecting perhaps a lost tourist or a city dweller needing directions. What he saw instead made him drop the rag in his hand. A black limousine, sleek as glass and long enough to appear out of place against the cracked pavement, pulled to a stop directly outside his garage. The door swung open with a soft, deliberate click. From the back seat emerged a man who seemed to belong in a glossy magazine, not on the worn sidewalk of Willow Creek. His tailored suit caught the last rays of sunlight, his shoes gleamed without a speck of dust, and his self-assured stride carried the kind of authority Jack had only witnessed in men accustomed to possessing everything they desired. Jack instinctively straightened, wiping his hands on his jeans, his heart thudding faster than he preferred. The man walked directly up to him, extending a hand with a practiced smile. "Jack Turner." His voice was smooth, composed, yet there was an underlying edge honed by years of achieving his objectives. "Yes," Jack replied cautiously, taking the hand. The man's grip was firm, almost calculated. "My name is Jonathan Brooks," he stated, releasing Jack's hand and surveying the garage with quick, appraising eyes. "I'm the CEO of Brooks Automotive. I heard about what you constructed for the little girl." He didn't mention Anna's name, Jack noted, and that small omission stirred a sense of unease within him. Jonathan didn't wait for a response. He paced slowly through the garage, examining the battered tool chests, the old cars in various states of repair, the rough cement floor stained by years of honest labor. His polished shoes seemed out of place here, and somehow that made every inch of the garage feel smaller. "I must say," Jonathan continued, his voice effortlessly filling the empty space between them, "I'm impressed. Very impressed. What you've created here is innovative, inspiring. It's the kind of craftsmanship you rarely see these days." He paused, turning back to face Jack with a look that was almost approving. "And that's precisely why I'm here." Jack folded his arms across his chest, wary. He had witnessed enough in his life to know that such words seldom came without conditions. "Why are you truly here, Mr. Brooks?" Jonathan offered a slow, measured smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Opportunity, Mr. Turner. I wish to offer you something very few people ever get a chance to: take your work to the next level. Brooks Automotive consistently seeks out talent that refuses to conform. You're precisely the kind of mind we desire. Someone who doesn't merely repair cars, someone who dreams bigger." Jack felt his world subtly shift. It was everything he had ever wished to hear, wasn't it? Recognition, a platform, the ability to create on a grander scale. Still, something in Jonathan's polished words felt too slick, too effortless. Jack thought of Anna's laughter, the way her mother had silently wept in the corner, the sheer purity of what that little car had signified. It hadn't been about innovation or market potential. It had been about freedom, pure and simple. Jonathan stepped closer, lowering his voice as if sharing a secret. "Join us, Jack, and you won't be building for just one child. You'll be creating for thousands, perhaps millions. We possess the resources to make your ideas reach further than you ever imagined." He extracted a small card from his jacket pocket and extended it. "Consider it. You can change the world if you're willing to step into a larger arena." Jack accepted the card more out of habit than intent, staring at the neat black letters spelling out Jonathan's name. His hands, still rough with grease, felt out of place holding something so pristine. Jonathan gave him a final nod, a signal that the conversation was, for now, concluded. "I'll be in town a few more days. Take your time," he said before turning back toward the waiting limousine. Jack stood in the doorway, the card heavy in his hand, watching the vehicle vanish down the road. The setting sun cast long shadows across the garage floor, stretching the distance between what he had always known and the uncertain, glittering promise now laid before him. Inside Jack's chest, hope and doubt waged a silent battle. Was this the chance he had been waiting for, or was it a temptation that would pull him away from the very essence that had made his work meaningful in the first place? He didn't have the answers yet, but he knew one thing for certain: the next choice he made would alter everything. Jack Turner spent that night restlessly turning in the stiff hotel bed, the business card from Jonathan Brooks resting like a heavy stone on the nightstand. He had said he would consider it, but his mind wasn't settling on excitement as he thought it might. Instead, it kept returning to Anna, the way her small hands had clutched the steering wheel, the way her laughter had echoed off the garage walls like sunlight on glass. Jack had built that car because he believed in something pure, something untouched by money or ambition. Now, lying there staring at the cracked ceiling, he wasn't so sure anymore that Brooks Automotive cared about anything beyond a favorable headline and a larger profit. The next morning, just as Jack was pouring himself a bitter cup of hotel coffee, his phone buzzed loudly against the table, rattling the ceramic mug beside it. He frowned, picking it up. It was a message from Anna, short and shaky. "Mr. Turner, I need to talk to you. Please, I'm scared." Jack didn't even stop to finish his coffee. His stomach dropped as he fumbled to call her back, his heart pounding harder with every second of delay. The phone rang once, twice, then Anna's small voice came through, trembling and breathless. "Mr. Turner," she whispered, "someone from that car company, they came to our house yesterday." Jack's blood ran cold. He gripped the phone tighter, trying to keep his voice calm for her sake. "What did they want, Anna?" he asked, every instinct screaming the answer he didn't want to hear. There was a pause, a shuddering breath on the other end. "They said they wanted to buy the car you built for me," Anna said, her voice breaking. "They said it would help my mom and me, that we could use the money. They kept saying it was a good deal, but Mr. Turner, I don't want to sell it. I don't want to lose it." Jack closed his eyes, forcing down the surge of anger rising inside him. "You didn't sell it, did you, Anna?" he asked, barely breathing. "No," she said quickly, her voice firm despite the fear laced through it. "I told them no, but they said I should think about it. They're going to come back." Jack felt a knot tighten in his chest. This wasn't some polite business offer. It was pressure, plain and simple, disguised in fine words and false promises. You did the right thing, Anna, Jack said, his voice low but steady. Listen to me, I'm coming to you right now. You don't have to do anything. Don't let anyone make you feel like you have to give up what's yours. He grabbed his jacket off the chair, his keys off the dresser, and slammed the door behind him without a second thought. The drive back to Willow Creek was a blur. Jack's hands gripped the steering wheel until his knuckles turned white, his mind racing ahead to what he would say, what he would do. Jonathan Brooks had smiled that smooth, careful smile and talked about changing the world, but it was all just words. Jack understood now. Brooks Automotive didn't care about Anna or the miracle she had found in that little red car. They cared about owning the story, owning the headlines, owning the image of hope without ever earning it. When Jack pulled up outside Anna's small house, her mother was waiting at the door, her face pale and tight with worry. Jack barely had time to park before she rushed over. "Mr. Turner," she said, wringing her hands together, "thank you for coming. I didn't know who else to call. They said it would be good for Anna, but it didn't feel right." Jack nodded grimly, stepping past her into the modest living room where Anna sat curled in her wheelchair, clutching the steering wheel of her car like a lifeline. Jack knelt down beside her, putting a hand gently on the armrest. "I'm here, kiddo," he said quietly. "And I'm not going to let anybody take what's yours." Anna looked up at him, her eyes wide and shining, a mixture of fear and trust that made Jack's chest ache. "But Mr. Turner," she whispered, "what if we need the money someday? What if my mom says yes?" Jack shook his head, his voice firm but kind. "Anna, listen to me. No amount of money is worth giving up something that was made for you from the heart. This isn't just a car. It's your freedom, it's your dream. And no one, not even a big fancy company, has the right to take that from you." Anna's mother wiped at her eyes, standing quietly by the doorway, listening. Jack stood up slowly, facing both of them with a look that left no room for argument. "If they come back," he said, "you don't answer the door. You call me. You tell them nothing is for sale, not now, not ever." As he stepped back outside into the cool morning air, Jack knew what he had to do. He had allowed himself to believe, even for a moment, that a company like Brooks Automotive could share his vision of building hope. But now he saw the truth clearly. They didn't want to help, they wanted to own. And Jack Turner wasn't about to let them. He climbed into his truck, the engine roaring to life under his heavy hand. His jaw was set, his mind clear. It was time to confront Jonathan Brooks and ensure he understood precisely what kind of fight he had initiated. The next morning, Jack Turner stood at the base of the towering Brooks Automotive headquarters, gazing up at the gleaming glass facade that mirrored the cloudless sky. The building was everything Jack's garage was not: cold, polished, imposing. But Jack wasn't intimidated, not anymore. He pushed open the heavy glass doors and walked through the marble-floored lobby without hesitation, his boots echoing against the smooth stone as suited employees turned their heads to stare. A receptionist with a practiced smile tried to intercept him, but Jack's voice cut through the air like a blade. "I'm here to see Jonathan Brooks," he said, not asking, not waiting. Something in his voice must have warned her not to argue, because within minutes, Jack found himself standing outside a heavy walnut door on the top floor. He didn't knock, he pushed it open and stepped inside. Jonathan Brooks was seated behind a desk the size of a small car, leafing through a stack of papers with the same casual arrogance Jack remembered. He looked up, a flicker of surprise crossing his face before settling back into that smooth, unreadable expression. "Mr. Turner," Jonathan said, setting the papers down and folding his hands neatly, "I wasn't expecting you so soon." Jack walked to the center of the room, every muscle in his body coiled tight with purpose. "I'm not here for small talk, Mr. Brooks," he said, his voice steady. "I'm here about Anna Collins and the car you tried to take from her." Jonathan leaned back in his chair, the smile never quite leaving his lips. "Ah," he said lightly, as if Jack had brought up a weather report. "You misunderstand. We simply made an offer. No one forced anything." Jack took a slow step closer to the desk. "You sent people to a little girl's house," he said, each word sharp and deliberate. "You pressured her family. You dangled money in front of them, hoping they'd give up something that was never for sale. That's not an offer, that's coercion." Jonathan's smile faded slightly, his eyes narrowing just a fraction. "Business, Mr. Turner," he said, his tone cooling. "It's how the world works. We see potential, we make deals. You of all people should understand that. You had your chance to join something bigger. You could have made a real impact. He gestured around the office, the skyline sprawling behind him. But instead you choose to cling to sentimentality. Jack didn't flinch. He felt the weight of everything he had built. Not just the car, but the trust, the belief, the simple, unshakable truth that what he had given Anna wasn't a product to be bought or sold. It was hope, and hope wasn't for sale. You think I'm clinging to sentiment? Jack said, his voice rising just enough to fill the cavernous office. That car isn't just a machine. It's freedom, it's dignity, it's everything that little girl was told she couldn't have. And you want to rip it away just so you can slap your name on it and call it progress. Jonathan's expression hardened. You're making a mistake, Turner, he said, his voice low now, almost a threat. You think you can fight a company like this? You think you can stop us? Jack smiled then, a real smile, the kind that came from knowing you were standing on solid ground while the world tried to shift beneath you. I don't have to stop you, he said. I just have to tell the truth. And people will see you for what you really are. There was a heavy silence between them, the kind that didn't need any more words. Jack turned without waiting for permission and walked out of the office, his boots thudding against the marble like a war drum. The card Jonathan had given him days before fluttered from his pocket and landed on the pristine floor unnoticed. Outside, the city stretched out around him, vast and indifferent. But Jack didn't feel small, he felt certain. He drove straight back to Willow Creek, to Anna's house, to the red car that sat gleaming proudly in the driveway. Anna was there waiting, her face pressed to the window until she saw him and rushed to the door. Jack crouched down beside her again, just like he had that first day. It's yours, Anna, he said simply. It always was, and it always will be. Anna smiled, and it wasn't just joy this time. It was trust, deep and fierce and whole. Jack realized then that real success wasn't measured by money or titles or the size of a building. It was measured by the laughter of a child steering her own path for the very first time, and the knowledge that no amount of power or greed could ever take that away. As Jack Turner stood in the fading afternoon light, watching Anna race her little red car down the street, her laughter chasing the wind, he knew without a doubt he had made the right choice. The fight wasn't over. It might never be. But Jack wasn't afraid. He had already won where it mattered most. Join us to share meaningful stories by hitting the like and subscribe buttons. Don't forget to activate the notification bell to begin your day with profound lessons and heartfelt empathy.